ASA W. Myers. I was Master Chief Petty Officer, Alameda, California. So Joe and I lived in a mobile home, and we had it towed to California. I remember the driver saying, "Who's your agent in California?" We said, "Well, agent? We don't have any agent." Said, "We expect to be there when you get there." And we were. We stayed in a motel in Vallejo that night. It was funny, Vallejo's 30 miles away from San Francisco. We couldn't find any place to live between Vallejo and most people didn't like mobile homes, and we didn't realize that. And so we lived there. I was on the USS Vega 2 years. We first went to Vietnam on the Vega. We were still doing unreps the way we had practiced in the Med all them years. You would put about 6 service ships in formation, and then the destroyers would run from one to another. They'd go to the supply ship, they'd go to the refrigerated cargo ship, they would go to the oiler and they'd go by the ammunition ship. They were all in formation. We got to Vietnam, that didn't work. It didn't work, I don't know, for several reasons, but it was a higher decision than my ship. I was involved in quite a few rescue type thing. There was a civilian man tug coming. Well, he lost his tow and went into Hong Kong, and then they sent us out to get his tow. It was a 100-ton crane on a barge, and of course the crane's all tied down. It was owned by the Army. They had loaned it to the Air Force, and they were on it to Vietnam as a civilian crew. And we salvaged it. It was, I forget the name of the islands, just a little bit south of Vietnam, in the Indian Ocean. But the tug had dropped its tow line and let it run off the towing engine. And it was 2,000 feet long, and that anchored the ship so it didn't go aground, you know. And so we got it. We couldn't figure out how to raise that line, you know, that tow line 2,000 feet, get it up, and it was on the ship alongside of it there. So we burned it off and let it go. So it's on the bottom somewhere out there. And a few months later, we had a note that guy was wanting his line back. So we just had to tell him we couldn't salvage it. On the 1st of March, I made a warrant. I flew back to Newport, Rhode Island, to OCS. I had a 6-week course for new warrants. Of course, we had our warrant before we went, so we weren't like the cadets that marched around everywhere. And we went to officers' mess for lunch. The day I got to OCS, you know, I introduced myself to the guy next to me in the desk, and just for conversation, I asked him where he came from. He raised up a little bit and he said, "See that oiler on Pier 2? He said, "That's one I come off of." And I said, "Where are you going when you leave here?" He said, "See that one on Pier 4? He had to carry his stuff down to the next oiler. I had just come 10,000 miles. I had 30 days leave, and I only got what was left after I drove. You know, it was a long trip home. Well, I got off in Subic Bay I got off on the 4th of March. I had made warrant at sea on the 1st of March. It was fun. One of the electrician and I were the only two people on the Vega that applied for a warrant. This is the first class of the warrants coming back. They hadn't had them for years, and they named 909. That's a lot of warrants. And I think I was in the 4th class that went through OCS. And what's his name? The electrician was in my class. We were in the same class. And after OCS, we flew back to San Francisco. I didn't take leave. I had 3 days travel time. I used that to move my family to Hawaii. We had already had our cars committed to being shipped. One of them, on the way to the airport, we dropped it off. And we headed for Hawaii, and the USS Vega is a new warrant, but I was chief engineer. I remember the second morning I was aboard, or the next day, I went to breakfast. The captain told me, well, he had me sitting right beside him. So the captain said, Asa, you know what? You just made me the old man of the boat. He was academy graduate, lieutenant, and I just turned 30 years old, and he was older than I was. So anyway, on the way to the Abnaki, I flew into Philippines. Got a hop on a little plane down to Subic, or Cubic, which is around the other side of the airfield, and I couldn't get a transportation out to the ship. The Abnaki was on Yankee Station. Is actually in the Gulf of Tonkin. Babysitting the Russian ship. They always had a spy ship up there, and I sat around the swimming pool and did the things you do when you don't have nothing to do. And for 2 weeks, and finally I got a ride on an oiler, and I don't even remember the name or the number of it. But I went out and they transferred me by whaleboat from their ship to the Abnaki. About maybe a week later or so, we went into Hong Kong for R&R, and Jim Hollis, the W3 that I relieved, got off in Hong Kong and flew back to sea. I've had contact with him probably 15 years ago. Called him and talked to him. We corresponded a little bit with emails. I don't know if he's still living or not. When I corresponded with him, he was already in the 80s. But he went on to become a W4 and retired on 30 years. Yeah.